What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me for a charging performance evaluation of the Tesla Cybertruck from 10 to 80%. And I have to admit, it's pretty disappointing. So let's hop into the studio and go over the charging curve. Well, you're joining me back in my Model Y. This is definitely not a Cybertruck. So I did want to kind of set the stage for this charging test. I was able to do a test drive of a Foundation Series Cybertruck all-wheel drive, which is hardware-wise the same as just a normal Cybertruck all-wheel drive non-Foundation Series. I had the truck for about 2 hours. I was driving around for about 45 minutes prior to plugging in. I had the navigation set to the supercharger so that it would precondition, and it did show the preconditioning message almost the entire time I was driving up until the point that I got to the supercharger. This was a version 4 post, version 3 cabinet supercharger site, so kind of best case scenario, it was about 55 degrees out Fahrenheit, so definitely cooler temperatures would help reduce the potential impact of overheating on the supercharger cables. And to my knowledge, this test is representative from what I've seen from other Cybertruck owners or people that have had them and done charging tests. And this curve appears to be very similar to what they've experienced as well. So I'm confident that my statements regarding the curve are accurate. And let's kind of just dive right in. So we're gonna be playing this back at 8x speed, just to make it a little bit quicker, but 10 to 80% was 38 minutes. And those that have been watching my videos for a while know that that 38 minutes is the same as my Model Y with the 4680 battery pack. So that's not great. So let's get to it. So we initially plug in, it was at 9%. It was as close as I could get to 10%, but I think it's still pretty darn close. We immediately showed up to 255-ish kilowatts. And we're actually going to be holding that until about 29%. So that's a pretty normal charge curve for the Cybertruck. If you're on an 800 volt charger, it can go higher than that if it's capable of it. So this is definitely supercharger limited up until we get to the crossover point where it drops below 255 kilowatts. And that's where we're no longer supercharger limited. We're actually truck internal charge curve limited. And this is why I think that the charge curve is not going to improve significantly with software updates or with the new version 4 actual charging cabinet changes, like a lot of people seem to think. So here we are, 29%. We're dipping down below 250 kilowatts. It's a pretty nice gradual drop. However, I think this drop should be happening a lot later in the charge curve. Tesla should be pretty embarrassed that they're shipping this, and it's barely doing 2C. It's about 123 kilowatt hour battery pack. So doing 250 kilowatts is just a hair over 2C charge rate. So C rate is pack capacity, and then it's just the multiple pack capacity for kilowatt. And here we are at about 45%. We'll be dipping under 150 kilowatts, which is version 2 supercharger speeds. So basically, if you're above that point and you plug into a version 2 supercharger, you'll be getting the exact same performance as if you were on a version 3. Which is pretty sad, I think. I think this charge curve is really just not great. So yeah, there we go, under 150 kilowatts, and we're coming up to 15 minutes, which I think is the point of Kyle out of specs 10% challenge. So we added about 50 kilowatt hours in that time. I'm at 2 miles per kilowatt hour. So I think a 10% challenge result on the Cybertruck on a version 3 supercharger would be around that 100-mile mark, which is not bad, but certainly not great or nothing to be bragging about. And then this is when the charge curve just really starts to get pretty darn bad. We're not even at 60%. We're already at about 1C charge rate, so about 125 kilowatts. And it's just still continuing to drop. It's not even plateauing at 100 kilowatts or anything like that. We eventually will get to a plateau point, which comes up here, and it seems to hold about 90 kilowatts right until 80%, and actually had a little bit of a dip and then come back up, which I thought was a little bit strange. This supercharger site was relatively busy, but again, from what I've seen online from other people sharing their Cybertruck charging curves, this seems to be pretty representative of what you can expect. So I don't think that we were site limited or charger limited in any way. And then here we are to that plateau point at about 25 minutes, 66%. So I'd say about 2 miles per kilowatt hour is a pretty reasonable assumption for highway speeds on the Cybertruck based on the driving that I did. So when we get to about 70%, which will happen in right about 30 minutes, a hair under, that's when you can expect to have about 150 miles of real world range on the interstate added, which is not bad, but again, not great. And Tesla has made a lot of claims about the Cybertruck, that it's alien technology and that it's the best of the best, and it just simply isn't. I really wish that Cybertruck was better, that it was closer to like the Silverado or even Rivian Large Pack. Rivian Large Pack has a lower peak, but holds it much longer than the Cybertruck does. And I think the Cybertruck just could have been so much better if Tesla hadn't been so stubborn, I guess is the best way to describe it, in using their 4680 battery pack, and instead had used 2170 cells like the Model 3 and Model Y. So now we're getting up into the high 70s, and we'll be finishing at 80% at about 38 minutes. And we'll be adding right about 90 kilowatt hours, a hair under, which is in line with what you'd expect, adding 70% of the battery pack. So here we are wrapping up, 6 minutes, 36:48. So sorry, I was mistaken. It was 38, but 36:48, 37 minutes plus or minus, which is really not a great result in my opinion. So there are some people that claim that the Cybertruck charging is great, mostly people on Twitter or X. And then Lars Moravi from Tesla, one of the lead engineers, he has claimed that Cybertruck will be able to do 15 to 85% in under 18 minutes. And realistically, I don't see any viable path towards that. I really hope I'm proven wrong. However, from what I saw, and I apologize, I didn't do a great job recording this. It was pretty impromptu that I was able to do this. But I looked in service mode and checked the battery cell temperatures, and they were getting pretty warm even with this charging session, that I don't think there's a whole lot of optimization Tesla can do beyond what they already have in order to basically cut the charging time in half. In order to do a 10 to 80 or 15 to 85, which is a very weird benchmark, but whatever, in 18 minutes, you'd have to average well over 200 kilowatts, and we're not even close to that point right now. So I would love to see what Tesla has cooking here. Tesla, please prove me wrong for sake of every Cybertruck owner and for sake of Tesla's future to some extent. That I hope the 4680 battery pack gets a lot better. But right now it's mediocre at best. Comment down below what you guys think. If you have one, I'd love to hear what your experiences are. I know Cybertruck owners seem to think that their charging is great and that their road trips are excellent, but this is the worst charging Tesla on the market. As far as road trip capability goes, and especially as far as miles added per minute charging. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I will see you guys on the next one.